Hi everyone. Today markets did chop sideways. We found a little bit more of a base at the trend line. We touched the level here, 554.87. We touched that yesterday, touched the trend line, found a little bit of a bounce. Still got to get above that 55 EMA there on the hourly, sitting up at 562.51. But let's take a look at the charts and see if we can find some other indicators of a potentially positive direction tomorrow. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So in news today, we did have the US deficit reaching that $1 trillion mark year to date. Big number there for the deficit, nearly 2.5 times the previous month at $307 billion. Want to see some of those Doge cuts start to come through on the budget deficit. We just haven't seen it quite yet. They're also about to pass a new budget bill. Want to see what that looks like. But right now, it does not seem like the spending is going to slow down. Not great at all. Deficit spending grew from 1.38 to 1.83 trillion under Joe Biden, and now so far it seems like we are probably still on that track, at least for the first year. Again, not great at all, especially with Trump saying he wants to cut income tax, bunch of tax cuts, extend taxes, job acts, spearheaded under the first administration, which would add to that deficit. Again, not a great thing at all. Moving over to fear and greed, we stepped up to a 20. It says previous was a 16. I think we were slightly higher than that. Either way, we're getting just a little bit of a curl up on this indicator. All of the major metrics still in extreme fear. Volatility did pull back a little bit. Have we topped there? We talked about that potentially being the case yesterday. And then junk bonds, extreme greed. Interesting to see that spread tightening a little bit. We'll take a look at junk bonds later, but safe haven demand just about as low as it goes. And then looking at the economic calendar here, you can see that CPI number coming in low across the board, under expectations on every metric, everything you wanted to see there. So is this the Trump effect? We're starting to see it potentially. We talked about this yesterday. We expect this to continue to trend lower. Can it do it? That would be great. We need a couple of these in a row so we can get another rate cut to potentially prop up markets. But this is a good start. Everything you wanted to see there. And then you can see that federal budget, like we just talked about, 10-year note auction, 4.3%, pretty good number there. And then for tomorrow, you have PPI, 30-year bond auction, Fed balance sheet. Want to see how that's doing. Continues to taper off. A little bit slower recently, but continuing to do it. And then for Friday, Michigan data, consumer sentiment. Want to see how those are doing. Seems like the consumer is softening. Want to see the actual numbers. Moving over to the SPY charts here on the daily, you can see we're still working off of that trend line. The 560.07 level is there as well. The trend line today was in the 555.93 area. You can see the level. We touched it. Started to find a bounce. After hours, we're continuing to rally. Probably going to get a nice move into PPI. Want to see this turn. Want to see at least a push to 574. I think we're in good shape here. Definitely some potential for upside. Maybe 2%, 2.5%. That would be interesting. Either way, solid base over the last 3 days. Multiple wicks to the same area, looks strong going into the open. Hopefully we don't get too much of the move here. After hours and pre-market still gives us a potential entry for tomorrow. Either way, short term looks a little bit bullish. Medium term, still concerned we could get a lower high set up in here somewhere around that 579.73 area, maybe even a little bit higher, 590. Expect the lower high, then continuation lower in my opinion. Structurally, I think this is broken, but you do have this major trend here holding up so far. Moving over to the Tasty charts here on the hourly, just looking at that consolidation, middle of the range, looking for a push to the upper range there. That would take you to 568.16. Then that would take us to bullish conditions as well. You obviously have some EMAs up there as resistance, which have been pretty consistent resistance over the past couple of weeks. We'll see if we can get there. Is this the first base that's going to hold? We've seen it before where you had a low, higher low, tried to go up here, and we ended up cratering to a lower low. So waiting to see what happens. So far, so good, though. Looks a little bit bullish, in my opinion, still. Moving over to the NASDAQ, same thesis, really. You can see that 3 days consolidation, pretty substantially higher low here on the NASDAQ. Tech held up quite well. You can see it in here. 477.69 is the level. After hours, getting a really strong push. I think there was news around the Intel CEO. That's potentially driving markets here a little bit. Hopefully, we get at least a retracement, but I do think we're going to go. I think there's a bit of upside potential. Lots of room, obviously very extended. Can we get all the way up into the 511s? That seems like might be a little bit too far, but I could see a push into the 491 area, maybe as high as the 503 area. Then I would be looking for that lower high, in my opinion. Moving over to the NASDAQ, on the Tasty charts, really strong potential we could get into bullish conditions. Your trailing stop right now is 480.70. If we can close above that on the hourly chart, then we're looking for some bullish conditions over the next couple days. We've had a couple of flips here. Like I said before, you can see low, higher low, bullish conditions, immediately gave it back. So a lot of these bullish setups have been failing. This one does seem to be holding up a little bit better, but just watch it very closely, work your rules, work your levels. Right now it looks good, getting above that 55 EMA, but there is absolutely potential this could still break down. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow. The Russell was up just 35 cents. The Dow was actually still negative on the day, 0.19 to the downside, still hanging out right at that trend line, through a wick to a lower low. The level is still 412. We didn't quite touch it yesterday. We hit it here today. Is it going to hold up now? Potentially, right? We're still at this low back here from November of 24. Similarly here on the Russell, we're still touching these levels August of 24. So a little bit deeper of a pullback on the Russell. The level is still 198.75. If it can hold this, then we could look for a push up into the 214s area. Is it finally finding a base that's going to hold up? Again, still looks a little better today than it did yesterday. Still super oversold at a 25.87. So looking to see if it can hold or not. Certainly think there is potential for tomorrow. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple continues to sell super aggressive. Had a big down day on Monday, continues to sell. We're below this level here now. We're below the 217.62 level as well, down 1.75%. It is oversold at a 29.93. We'll see if it can continue to the next level to 11.55. And then for Microsoft, up about 0.75%, continues to hold this 378.77 level. So interesting. We'll see if it can hold in here. Is it going to go to the trend? Maybe. But momentum stepping to bullish. Want to see at least a little bit of a retracement, potentially up into that 394 area, maybe even the 21 at 399. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA, these actually held up really, really well today. These were some of the market leaders, 7.59% to the upside. Got a little bit more after hours, looking very, very strong there. Big volume over the last 3 days. Huge volume selling, huge volume buying, and we got a gap up. So maybe this is at least a short-term bottom. Can we see it push back into the 300 area potentially? Definitely looks a lot better here today than it did yesterday and 2 days ago, but still be patient. Still very much a selling structure, but we've round tripped this move. Usually once you get a full round trip of an aggressive move like this, there is at least a relief rally. And then looking at NVIDIA, nice candle there as well, 6.42%. Pushed right through the trend line, gapped through it right to the next level. 116.70 was the level. We touched that by 6 cents during the session, and then after hours we're above it. Are we going to push back into the 124 area? Certainly seems like it. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Moving over to staples and discretionaries. Look at staples continuing to sell super aggressive. We said yesterday looked bad and broken. Got a continuation move lower there, 2.17%. Seems like this has culminated. We had a really clean topping pattern, big wick, continued to reject their continuation lower. So huge volume. Is this the start of a little bit of risk on? Seems like it. You can see that same kind of structure as Tesla here on the discretionaries, big wick high, lower high setup. Round trip of this move. Is it finding a base in here? Certainly seems like it. 197.14 is the level. Closed above it, up slightly after hours. And then quick look here at real estate as well as technology. Want to highlight that real estate got a little extended in here. We said above 42, probably wait to buy it. So far, we've pulled back below 42, and now we're back into a buy range for me. You can see some volume coming through here. Anything really between 40 and 41, I think is a good opportunity. We're not quite there. You can certainly buy it here, but above 42, I just don't think that's really sustainable, at least in the short term. And then looking at technology, nice little pop here, 1.57%. Momentum stepping to bullish, RSI stepping to bullish. Is tech finally going to give us that relief rally? I certainly think it does look like it based on this chart here. Big move down, indecision candle, gap up. Want to see some continuation. Moving over to Breadth. Breadth continues to crater despite the pop in markets we saw here today. This is what makes me nervous. Usually market rallies when Breadth is fading just do not hold up. We did get to a pretty low level, The low was at the 1610 level, just short of my 16 level here. So is this the zone where we start to find a little bit of a bounce? You don't get below that level too often here. You can see once back in August, got to this level back in October of 23, again September of 23. This was kind of a bottoming pattern here, but again, once or twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, we get into the zone. We're here now. Is it going to be the zone where it bounces, or are we going to push lower into that 7 area again? Right now it does not look great. You could argue maybe wick rejection here at the 26.39 level. We did get there on the 50-day as well. Either way, these continue to crater. This is what makes me concerned that even if we do get rallies, are they going to be held up? Just doesn't seem like it yet. Moving over to bonds, JNK and TLT. JNK actually held up. We hit this level yesterday, held that level today up about 9 cents. Want to see that hold up. Huge volume, huge selling yesterday. Want to see it support in this zone. And then looking at TLT, broke down a little bit more, 0.6%. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Is this going to pull back to the 55 now at the 88.50 area? Is it going to hold the 89 area? We're below the 21. That's a little concerning, right? So you have a high, lower high potentially. Breakdown here. Probably going to push to 88.50 if I had to guess. But be patient here. Either way, I still don't think we're going to go back to these lows. And anything from here really up until that 89 area seems like a buying opportunity. Moving over to the VIX. The VIX did crater a little bit today, down 10%. We saw these wicks here at the level yesterday. Momentum stepping down, RSI stepping down. Expecting a little bit more pullback here, potentially into the 20 area. Is that where we find support? Either way, still looking at a higher low setup somewhere between that 18 and 20 area. Maybe the trend holds up. But for now, short term, looking a little bit bearish for me. Moving over to my accounts, I made money on the day, and I honestly probably should have stayed a little bit bullish. I was a little bit nervous about the structure. We were selling in the early pre-market, but after hours, obviously, we're finding that solid bounce. You can see we're up about $2 after hours. Pretty solid bounce there. Either way, made money on the day. You like to see that. We'll see if we can keep it going tomorrow. If we get nice rallies, I'll be in on that. But for now, being patient, and I'm definitely going to be watching for a potential reversal. So far, every rally and bullish structure has failed, and that's obviously a possibility here, but for now it does hold up, and I do think it's going to, at least for one more day. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the CPI data, the inflation data, or the federal budget. What do you think of those? Are we just going to continue to spend into oblivion, or can Trump actually fix anything? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.